G'day and welcome to ReDriven. Now, the Mercedes-Benz GL-Class, when these were brand new, they were regarded as being almost the S-Class of SUVs, but now that they're a few years old and have many thousands of kilometres on them, that lofty title has been tarnished, with many people calling them the worst Mercedes-Benz ever made. So which is it? Are they worthy of the S-Class comparison, or are they just a bit shit? What goes wrong with them? What do they like to live with on a daily basis? What do they cost to own, maintain and run? And most importantly, should you buy one? Let's find out. Now, before we get deep into the GL-Class, I should mention that in this video, we're going to be focusing on the Australian variants of the GL-Class. But if you're not from Australia, don't freak out or panic, because everything we're going to be going over in this video should relate to GL-Classes in your local market. Actually, speaking of local markets, if you're in the market for one of these things because you want a big European SUV, it's important to know that these aren't European. These were actually made in the United States in Alabama. Actually, they're made in the same factory that made the ML class, and that car was initially called the Alabama Trash Can because the build quality was so incredibly terrible. But hopefully Mercedes worked out all the quality issues with this one. Hopefully, maybe. We'll soon find out. Also, to keep this video as objective as we possibly could, we've reached out to multiple Mercedes-Benz technicians and mechanics. We've spoken to GL owners groups. We've spoken to actual GL owners. We've read through what feels like hours of customer satisfaction and reliability reports. So this video is basically the culmination of all of that information and all of their expertise and experience. Now, the GL-Class was available from 2006 to 2012 across technically 6 different variants and over 2 different generations. But for a bit more of an overview of the GL-Class, here's a B-roll montage with me doing a voiceover. Built on a widened and lengthened version of the previous generation M-Class platform, the Series 1 X164 GL-Class initially landed here in Australia with either a 3-litre turbo diesel V6 as the GL320 CDI, or with a 5.5-litre petrol V8 as the GL500. This Series 1 GL-Class also received an update in October of 2008, being equipped with updated features and some extra equipment. December 2009 brought with it a more substantial midlife update called the Series 2. This update saw the exterior and interior designs change, and there was another update to the equipment offered. While the GL320 CDI was replaced with the GL350 CDI, plus luxury variants were also introduced. In March 2011, the range was updated again, with the GL350 CDI being fitted with a more powerful blue efficiency engine, and this car, the GL450 CDI, was introduced powered by a 4-litre twin-turbo diesel V8. And look, obviously we'd love to go over every specific detail of what every GL-Class has and doesn't have, but that would take far too long. But the thing is, we have gathered all that information and we've put it in our very handy ReDriven cheat sheets. Our cheat sheets are invaluable as they provide a full breakdown of the car's model range, its common problems, what you need to look out for before handing over your hard-earned cash, how much of that cash you should be handing over, and so much more. Check it out at redriven.com or in the link below. Now guys, if you already own a GL-Class or you're like a GL-Class expert and you've noticed that we've missed something major in this video, please let us know in the comments. Obviously we're doing everything we can to cover as much as we can about this car in the video, but if there's something major we've missed, let us know in the comments. So does it look good? Look, obviously looks are subjective. Personally, I love the way these things look, especially in black. It looks like something the German Secret Service would use to abduct important people or whisk VIPs across Europe. Very cool. Like, it is a really big unit of a car, but it does sort of feel, classy yet tough. And there's like little things like the doors, they still have that, nice Mercedes clunk to them. But see, there is a bit of a problem. Because these are purchased generally by wealthy people to ferry their wealthy children to and from private schools or to battle a shopping centre car park to buy whatever the latest gluten-free, soy-based, kale-flavoured coconut ice cream is that their pretentious yet wealthy children aren't intolerant to, these things can cop a fair bit when it comes to lifestyle knocks and damage. If you are in the market for one of these things, make sure you go over the entire car's exterior and look for scratches, like these ones, or dents from, say, shopping trolleys. Or even more seriously, if the owner of the car has misjudged the parameters of like a concrete pylon that holds up a shopping centre car park, there might be some serious damage around the outside. Next up, look at the condition of the wheels and tyres. Like, if there's a little bit of gutter rash, that's fine, but if there's any heavy damage on the rims, it's a sign that the owner is not a very good driver. And also check the tyres. The tyres need to be premium quality tyres, and they need to match around the entire car. See, it's one thing to be able to afford to buy the car, but it's a whole different thing to be able to afford to maintain it. Plus remember guys, this is a Mercedes, so if you do spot any damage, the cost of repairs and the cost of parts, they will ask a premium. Now guys, being a four-wheel drive, normally we'd recommend checking the entire exterior for any signs of off-road abuse. And look, these things do come equipped with some excellent off-road features and equipment. But let's be honest here, the chances of a GL-Class owner actually taking their GL-Class properly off-road are about as likely as them ever drinking instant coffee or stepping foot inside a Kmart. It's not going to happen, so we wouldn't worry about that too much. Now, there are quite a few common issues and faults that the GL-Class does suffer from, but we'll be covering those shortly. So how's the interior? Well look, as I said at the start, these things are generally regarded as like the S-Class of SUVs, and that might sound like a good thing, although you should maybe watch our S-Class review video. The link for that video is just up there, because when it comes to the interior, it gets interesting. As far as this particular car goes, look, it is lovely in here. It does feel very luxurious, like the ergonomics are fantastic. There's loads of seat adjustment, heaps of steering wheel adjustment, so you're definitely going to be able to get comfortable in here. And as far as wear and tear goes, it's interesting. Like, you can tell it's wearing, like the leather is going a little bit glossy. It still feels sort of soft. I don't know if this is actually the Artico synthetic leather or if this is the Napa leather option, but it is wearing, like everything's feeling a little bit old. There's some scratches in the leather here. This just feels a bit old. All through here feels a bit old. The wood grain's scratching up. Any of the sort of solid plastics, they're kind of scratching as well. It's got this lovely dashboard cover to keep the dashboard protected, which is nice, but it's nice. It doesn't feel as premium as it probably should. Like, for example, the switchgear, like, okay, it doesn't feel cheap. It just doesn't feel, I know it's being really almost pedantic, but it just feels a bit disappointing. Even here, like the window switches just all feel a little bit loose and yeah, not what I was expecting. Okay, in the back seat, I am 23 centimeters taller than Mercedes-Benz fangirl and former Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel. This is in my driving position, and this is beautiful back here. It's almost palatial. Heaps of knee room, heaps of foot room, heaps of shoulder room. It's quite an airy, spacious cabin because the glass house is quite large. The seats are very comfortable, and even the positioning of the seats is spot on. Like, there's a good amount of support under the legs. This might be, next to the S-Class, the most comfortable back seat I've ever sat in. It's beautiful. As far as wear and tear goes, it's not too bad. Like, the leather isn't too bad. It's getting a little bit shiny. There's some kind of scratches on the hard plastics back here. There's some scratches on the, you know, the gloss wood trim up here. And I think there's some signs of some children's vomit on the door handles. Pretty gross. But yeah, wear and tear for a family car, not bad. Also, as this car is fitted with these screens, because kids can be complete assholes, the screens are pretty heavily scratched up around the outsides, like all the black plastic is pretty scratched, and even the screens themselves have been abused, no surprise. Now, we had every intention of showing you guys what it's like to sit in the third row, but here's the thing, that seat doesn't work at all, and this one does this. Yeah, that's actually better than what it was doing before. Before it was like kind of opening and shut like kind of a, I don't know, dinosaur's mouth trying to eat your children. Stop it. Stop it. I don't know what the third row's like to sit in because they're buggered. How's the tech? Well, the tech improved with each different variant and upgrade of GL-Class, but even from the start, the tech was actually pretty good. But for an overview, here's me doing a voiceover. Base model GLs will feature an 8-speaker sound system with CD player, dual zone climate control, 10-way power adjustable front seats, cruise control, front and rear parking sensors, automatic headlights, rain sensing wipers, remote central locking, 3 12-volt power outlets and ambient lighting. While higher spec and more recent variants will come equipped with a 12-speaker Harman Kardon sound system with auxiliary inputs, 3-zone climate control, command APS with DVD-based satellite navigation, heated front and second row seats, directional bi-xenon headlights with washers, power folding mirrors, a power-operated tailgate and power sunroof. Bluetooth connectivity arrived from October 2008, and Mercedes-Benz's command system with a 6.5-inch colour display, a reversing camera, and a few other tech and equipment features were also included as standard from the Series 2 update. For the full details of which GL gets what tech, just jump on ReDriven.com and check out the cheat sheets, or click the link in the description below. Okay, so is it practical? Well, with the third row seats stowed away, yeah, hugely practical. So much space back here. And with the second row folded down, it basically becomes like a little van. The thing is, but with the third row seats in place, the storage here is tiny. We'd love to show you, but the seats are broken, so we can't. Practicality in the second row, you've got some nets down here for your headphones for these awesome screens, or maybe if you want to go fishing and you want to put your fish somewhere in the net. You've got your own air conditioning vents and air conditioning controls here. You've got a spot for the DVDs that go in there because it's kind of old school, and auxiliary inputs. The thing is, but if you pull that down hard enough, it breaks and you can see into the guts of the car. There are some door bins here, and also in the armrest, a couple of cup holders here. And practicality up front, you've got a bit of a bin down here with a spot for like an ancient mobile phone and very, very small coins. You've got cup holders here, but there's a bit of a rattly bit there, and this apparently breaks off. That's good. There's a ashtray down here for those of you that smoke. Disgusting. It's gross. Stop it. There's a pretty decent sized glove box, but the problem with the glove box is to close it, you actually have to smash it shut. And there are some door bins that are okay, but they don't actually hold like a decent sized water bottle. So practicality up front, average. Okay, what goes wrong with these things? Well, we're going to cover the mechanical stuff in a second, but let's start with the exterior. Now, there are loads of reports that on earlier models of these, the door locking mechanisms and the tailgate locking mechanisms can freak out, glitch out, and completely fail, either locking you out of the car or just not locking at all. Now, models with the powered tailgate, there's plenty of reports that the powered tailgate will just completely fail, either not opening or not closing on command. Now, there are quite a few reports that the taillights can dim or completely fail. This is generally due to rust or oxidization on the circuit board, but the problem with that is that it can alter the input of the other lights. So sometimes if you push the brake pedal, the fog lights come on. The sunroof, both of them, can leak, and that water eventually leaks into the mechanisms and the electronics of the sunroof, which breaks them and freaks them out completely. The thing is, but the cost to repair these will quickly add up because Mercedes. Now, these things are bloody heavy, and that puts a lot of stress on the tyres. And being a premium car, you want to have premium tyres on a premium car, but premium tyres are expensive, and depending on how you drive it, they can wear out quickly. Okay, this is a serious one. The suspension on these things can completely fail. It basically results in the car leaning to one side or just, sitting all completely wrong. Don't get us wrong, when the suspension works, it's beautiful, but it's not proving to be very reliable. Okay, what goes wrong with the interior? Quite a few things. Let's start with the infotainment system. There are loads of reports that the infotainment system, no matter which generation or which infotainment system, can just get glitchy and start to freak out and also just completely stop working. There are quite a few reports that the air conditioning can fail to work, either not heating or not cooling, just not doing what it's told in general. The major problem with that is that to fix it, you generally have to take the entire dashboard out of the car, and the hours to do that will quickly add up, and that'll cost a lot of money. There are quite a few reports that on the earlier models, the power steering pump and the steering rack can have some pretty major faults. It's pretty commonly known that the battery can drain itself very, very quickly, way faster than you're expecting, literally across the entire range. Because the GL is fitted with loads of sensors, because these things are getting older and they have to drive on our rough Aussie roads, those sensors are starting to fail and they will light up your dashboard like a Christmas tree. And finally, for the interior, there are loads of reports that a lot of the switchgear, especially the window switches, just fail to work. They just stop working. Actually, on this car, the passenger side rear window switch, it doesn't work anymore. Now guys, before we get to mechanically what goes wrong with these things, can I ask a favor? Can you please hit those like, subscribe and bell buttons if you're enjoying this video? And can you share this video as much as you can? Because the more you hit those buttons and the more you share this video, the more of these sorts of videos that we can make. And hopefully that's a good thing, unless you're a Mercedes owner, which it probably isn't. Okay, so what mechanically goes wrong with these things? Well, look, the thing is, I'm not a mechanic, so I'm not qualified to tell you, but Jim is.
Engine-wise, they suffer from a lot of the same problems we see in all modern-day diesels. We see problems with EGR valves and EGR coolers. We see DPF-related problems. We see turbo problems. We see injector seal problems, and we see choked-up manifolds. It does help if you keep the services up to date, but Mercedes-Benz servicing schedules can be a bit confusing for some. But if you want to improve its chances of survival, just service it every 10,000 Ks, no matter what. Having said that, just about every one of these we see in the workshop has got a check engine light or something else going on with it. We've seen them with terrible transmission shudder and delayed gear selection. Now that can either be a problem with the transmission control module or, worse still, a mechanical or electronic problem inside the gearbox. Now either way, it's nearly always really expensive to fix. And the whole air suspension system is very problematic. We've seen them sloping to one side, and we've even had reports of people going out to their garage and to find the whole front or the back of the car completely squatted down on its bump stops. Now, it can be a compressor problem, airbag problem, a strut problem, or the level sensors. All of those bits are prone to failure. We've seen hub and wheel bearing issues from loose drive shafts. Now, sometimes that can just be a creak when you're going from forward to reverse, and other times it can result in a catastrophic wheel bearing failure. So yeah, safe to say they have their fair share of problems. And even if you find one that is in perfect condition with a faultless service history, all bets are off in terms of what's going to break next. Look, you know what? I wasn't going to mention this, but full disclosure, my brother had one of these. And in the time we had this one for testing, I messaged him to just get his, feedback on what he thought. And his response was expensively underwhelming. Oh, and I should add, he traded the GL in on a brand new Mazda CX-5 and has never had a problem with it.
Now guys, look, I know this might seem like loads of doom and gloom, but the thing is, when we were doing the research for this video, there are loads of owners out there that own these things that have never had a problem, and they swear by them, they love them. So is it safe? Guys, this is a Mercedes-Benz. That's a company that's at the forefront of safety. But for a quick overview of what safety features the GL has, here's me doing a voiceover as fast as I possibly can. The GL comes with dual front two-stage airbags, front and second row side airbags, full-length curtain airbags, ABS, electronic brake force distribution, brake assist, electronic stability control, traction control, trailer stability control, active front seat head restraints and seatbelts with pre-tensioners and load limiters for the front and outer second row seats, plus Mercedes-Benz's pre-safe system, which anticipates and prepares for collisions by tensioning the seatbelts, adjusting the seat positions for optimal airbag deployment, and closes the sunroof if it's open. Now again, for the full details of which GL gets what safety tech, just jump on ReDriven.com and check out that cheat sheet, or click the link in the description below. So what's it like to drive? Well look, because this is a big black luxurious Mercedes and I'm sitting here swathed in leather and luxury, I can feel my care for anyone else in the world just vanishing. Like, I can see other cars and other people out there, but because of this thing's sheer size and bulk and the atmosphere that it creates, when you're driving it, you can feel that you're far more important than they are. Like, if you like self-esteem or self-confidence, driving one of these things will do you wonders. Okay, but like in all seriousness, this is a big lug of a car. Like, the engine is really smooth and it has a great amount of power even for the size and weight of this thing, but there's no hiding its sheer bulk. Maybe in its homeland of the United States, this thing would make sense, but here in, suburban metropolitan Australia, it just feels like you're driving a really nicely finished, luxurious bus that also happens to sound awesome when you put your foot down. It does sound great. Now, the engine might sound really good, but there are some other noises in here that don't sound really good. There are lots of rattles and squeaks and creaks going on. There's a big rattle over there near the camera. It's definitely not the camera because it was making that noise before we set the camera up. Down here next to my left leg, there's some weird noises, some creaks and rattles over here. In the back, there's some noises. This thing's got nearly 180,000 Ks on it, but being a Mercedes, it should be better than that. Now, when we were doing the research for this video, there are loads of owners out there that rave about how well these things tow, especially with either of the V8 engines. Look, in this video, we're not going to be towing anything because this is now a car and we don't really have anything to tow. But it is nice to know that if you do need to tow something like your show horses or maybe your investment portfolio, these things will do it well. The steering is super light and I dare say pretty vague, which doesn't help when you're trying to judge the parameters of this enormous vehicle in like a tight car park. Now, it does roll around a bit and pitch and wallow in corners. It doesn't really like the curves, and that's understandable with the sheer size and weight of this thing, but it does ride beautifully, and that's because this air suspension still kind of currently works. It has got a couple of gremlins going on, but for how long the air suspension lasts before it needs replacement is kind of anyone's guess. So overall, what's it like to drive? Well, look, here in suburban metropolitan Australia, I think it feels way too big. And I also don't like the fact that I can feel like this air of pretentious, entitled arrogance building inside me the more I drive it. But if you can look past those things, yeah, it's a nice thing. It's not quite S-Class. It feels a bit cheap to be an S-Class, but it's getting close. Now, if you're a Mercedes fan, you might want to look away because the levels of depreciation that these things can suffer from are pretty terrifying. So pricing here in Australia kicks off from as little as $7,000. That's right, we actually found a 2008 GL320 CDI for $7,000. But the thing is, it's important to remember that here in Australia, that car, when brand new, was around about $110,000, so it's lost nearly 95% of its value. At the other end of the spectrum, look, there are a couple of GLs hovering around about the $70,000 mark in Australia at the moment, like second-hand ones obviously, but those owners are dreaming if they think they're going to get that sort of money for them, because the vast majority of really good condition late model GLs are hovering around about the $45,000 mark. Now that means that something like this, a 2012 450 CDI in like pretty good condition with a reasonable amount of kilometres on it, which was over $170,000 when brand new, has lost nearly 75% of its value in just 9 years. Now, for comparison, remember that 200 series Land Cruiser that I mentioned earlier on? Well, the equivalent model 200 series Land Cruiser to this GL450 when new was about $117,000, so it's like $50,000 cheaper than the GL series. But the thing is, on the second-hand market these days, a 200 series Land Cruiser is going to be asking around about $80,000, sometimes more than that, but about $80,000 for the equivalent model to this car. So basically that means that while the Mercedes has lost around about 75% of its value, the Toyota has only lost 30%. Interesting. Also in the S-Class video that we did, we found that quite a few S-Class and Mercedes owners and fanboys are of the opinion that anything wearing a three-pointed star is above being criticised. And as we showed in that video, there are some issues. But here's a question to the Mercedes community members that feel that, Mercedes can do no wrong. How the hell do you justify this level of depreciation? Like, if they were as good as you guys say they are, why do they drop in value so enthusiastically? Let us know in the comments. And for pricing elsewhere on this big planet of ours, here's a graphic. Mercedes claim a fuel consumption figure of anywhere between 9.2 and 13.5 litres per 100 Ks, depending on obviously if it's diesel or petrol and the engine size. This particular GL is claimed at 11.8 litres per 100 Ks, but its actual average is 17.9. Mercedes-Benz offered a 3-year unlimited kilometre warranty on all of these GLs, which basically means these are all well and truly out of warranty now. Mercedes recommends servicing these things at every 12 months or 20,000 Ks, but we'd be recommending, changing the fluids and maintaining them far more regularly than that. Also, because it's a Mercedes, the cost of genuine parts, they are expensive, and the labour charges can quickly add up because these are a complex piece of engineering, and a job that in some cars might be really, really simple, in this thing can turn into a nightmare. Okay, so should you buy one? Look, we get why you'd want to, because buying a GL for tens and tens of thousands of dollars less than what they were when they new, it does seem like a bargain. But the thing is, it isn't.
See, if they retained their value at all, and the chances of mechanical or electronic issues arising were slim to none, maybe you should buy one. But it's near impossible to financially justify buying a car that's value will continue to depreciate at near catastrophic levels, while its maintenance and possibly repair costs continue to go up again at what could be catastrophic levels.
Look, yes, there are faultless examples out there and ones that have had no problems whatsoever. But even if you can afford one, or you're happy to ignore the potential financial risks that might come with it, or you're mentally and emotionally prepared for the mechanical nightmares that they may have, and it is a good car, it's not amazing. It's not some phenomenal thing that's worthy of crazy levels of acclaim. It's just, yeah, it's good.
But should you buy one? Look, if you just have to have the biggest Mercedes-Benz SUV and you can comfortably afford the potential stupid maintenance costs and you can somehow justify the extreme depreciation, okay, sure, why not? Look, financially, it's dumb, but you possibly have far more money than sense.
But if you're buying a GL-Class because you think it's a bargain and you can only just afford to buy the actual car itself, or maybe you're a fan of making money instead of just throwing it away, God no, you should not buy one. Remember the old saying, the most expensive car in the world is a cheap Mercedes. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and what did you think of the GL-Class? Let us know in the comments below. Oh, remember, can you please hit those like, subscribe and bell buttons, and remember to share this video as much as you possibly can. It would really help. Oh, also go and check us out on the socials. See you next time. No, too much fan, too much fan. How the f*** do you turn the fan down? Oh, the fan button, that'll be it. Sorry. And look, obviously we'd love to go over every... Okay. And look, obviously we'd look to... on Morris. Okay. What goes wrong with them? What do they like to live with? Here we go. Detail of what every GL variant upgrade, I've done this a million times. There we go. Okay, so does it look good? Well, obviously, looks that was terrible. There you go. Okay, so does it look good? Well, look, obviously, looks are subjective, but personally, I love the way these look, especially in Okay. Now, guys, if you already own a GL-Class or you're a bit of a GL-Class expert, and if you noticed in this video that we've missed something major, please let us know in the comments. Like, obviously, here we go, here we go. From trolleys, or if the owner has misjudged the parameters of the car and has hit like a concrete pylon that holds up the roof of the shopping centre. Come on, Morris. There we go. How's the tech? Well, the levels of tech improved with each, okay, here we go. Sorry,